Welcome back for all you game changers and people up to something. The people that are actually building high value for themselves in life. So, this is the Maturity Project. I'm your host, Chad Everett Bros Shears. Today's conversation is about frames of thinking. God, these are the things that people are addressing when they say, I'm optimist or pessimist or, a realist or, whatever philosophy people see life through, they will see that with alignment of specific frames of thinking. Frames of thinking change your life because that's actually part of your operating system. It's the way that you see the world and the way that you function throughout the world. So when you start looking at specific frames of thinking, a lot of these things are so well ingrained in you that you can't really, it's hard to even realize you're doing it. And what we do is we stack layers of frames of thought into layers of frames of thoughts, and it keeps building into like a bridge to a destination of a particular thinking process. You want to get someplace, and then you associate your goal with it, then use your operating system with the frames of thinking, which is your personal philosophy of life built into that, with the narrative about who you are in the storyline of that particular outlet or outlook of life. And that's what you do. You just keep going through, and they all have cost and benefits. A lot of times, if you don't understand the cost on the front end, you'll have a bigger cost on the back end because you're more focused on the benefit. If you have a bigger cost if you don't really focus as much as the benefit, you just set it on the board and you make that your goal, and you focus on the cost associated with getting there, and you start taking on those costs. Typically, the reward is much sweeter because you're not blinded by the idea of the outcome. You're actually focused on the work necessary to get there. Now, when we talk about work, most of us understand work from the physical sense that causes you to sweat, depletes your physical energy, and then at the end of the day, you have, whatever that you've done throughout that day or whatever the timeline is of that particular work. And you can say, hey, I can see it clearly. There it is. I did that. That's me. Okay, there's your work. Don't really think about it as the laborious effort that it takes to control the way that you think, or at least lay out the groundwork to think in a specific way to accomplish a specific outcome. So, you know what? You can accumulate a significant amount of money. You have that ability, you can accumulate it. But here's the thing. What if you accumulate that money and you're miserable? There are plenty of people that do incredibly risky behaviors or associate themselves with incredibly risky behaviors simply so that they can have a particular outcome that, it's I've got more money than my family could ever spend in the bank. Because so many of us are so incredibly focused on the validatable position in life is that you accumulate a certain amount of money. Well, that's not the only marker of success in life. Fulfillment in life is actually a very holistic, bigger picture of living. It's your family, it's your experiences in life. Were you present when you went to Hawaii? Or were you thinking about incomplete issues that you did not address appropriately? And then as soon as your mind was capable of revving down the overall stimulus that had it so revved up prior to get on the plane to go to Hawaii, as the example here, going to Hawaii. And then you get stuck in I don't need to think about, my employees as much. I can bring down the CPU's bottleneck on that. Then I can think about, I don't need to think about going to the grocery store right now. I don't need to think about paying the bills for the house. That's all been set up already. Took care of it. I don't need to think about my commute back and forth to work. Somebody else is flying me there. Somebody else is flying the plane. I don't need to do that. So everything about your overall thinking processes start to reduce in the particular the day to day. And then all of a sudden, now you're focused on the things that have to do with, things you haven't addressed, the incomplete situations that you have. What about that conversation I had with this particular employee or this person, this friend that I really didn't leave that conversation in the way that I wanted to? I have so many other things that I want to do. And your mind now has the option to be able to jump into another thinking process. So challenges that you have not dealt with. So you're like, you know what, I can't wait to go on vacation. And then you just go through this torturous effort of thinking through things you can't do much with when you finally don't have the physical activities to keep you busy. So you're like, okay, well, I can go parasailing today. I can get pulled behind a boat. I can swim with the sharks. I can check out the reefs. Go have some of the authentic foods of the environment I'm going to. So Hawaii is going to be amazing. It's like all of these things that you go off and you get involved in, but you're really not present to it. And then you get robbed of the fulfillment of that moment, so that you are the one that lose in that situation. If you want to have a better, more fulfilling life, well, there's 8 areas of maturity to address. Now, I'm not going to belabor you that necessarily with this particular video, but I will talk about the frames of thinking necessary to get closer to that fulfillment. So we have 8 areas, right? We have the physical body's 1, the community is 2, or your community is 2, cognitive or intelligence is 3, your emotions are 4, 5 is your finances, and 6 is going to be your business, 7 is your sexuality, and 8 is your spirituality or purpose. So those are 8 different areas of maturity that you can do something with and develop yourself that will give you a more fulfilling life experience. So with that being said, if you have a specific goal that you really want to change, let's focus more on a character value or a trait supporting character values. You say, I'm tired of dealing with X in my life, whatever that is. Let's talk about a dating experience. Okay, well, if you're tired of dealing with a specific type of person, you constantly seem to be like landing with losers, right? Or people that manipulate or lie or whatever the thing is, right? Pick the thing, right? That you've caught yourself saying, if this particular part, the example, works for you in this conversation. So you say, okay, well, I'm tired of dating this person. Lowest common denominator. It's not them, it's you. Now, we've got to that point. What can we do about that? Well, we have frames of thinking, because you have a pattern of behavior that you need to address. Because if you don't address that pattern of behavior, does not matter if the dream guy or girl shows up in your life. You were not prepared for them. You have traits that will draw them in, and then you have the habits and traits that will push them away. You know what really sucks is when you finally find the person that really gets you, that sets your world on fire. It makes you feel that you can accomplish anything. And then you fuck it up. We're so incredibly complex as human beings that the truth of your heart will speak to the people that you connect with. That's intimacy, right? Intimacy is really the truth of your heart. It is the most truthful connection that you can possibly have. That is intimacy. And then you have every single trait and behavior that you have built into your character to survive up until that point, that learn something about how to deal with reality and the reality of your experiences. Because you have your experience. Your narrative builds into the way that experience occurs to you. And then you make that true as far as a reality. And then you assume that everybody else experiences that. It's a very common con that we do as human beings. So you could absolutely meet the right person for you, but because you haven't done the work. Now, here's the thing. You may have done work, and you likely have. You've done work on yourself. If you're following this channel, you've done work on yourself. Now, you've done work on yourself, but that work is in the areas that you needed to put attention to, because the attention showed up that it was required, the squeaky wheel, right? It showed up. Now what? You got these things that did show up for you, and you addressed it. This is no different at this moment with this example, because the person showed up, the right person showed up, the one that matches you so closely that it blows your mind, right? It makes you go, wow, I've been wrong about love. I've been wrong about a lot of things, because this person showed me something different. How incredibly beautiful is that? And then you realize you got a lot of work to do, you know? So from there, what the fuck do you do? Well, you get to work. You have to work on the frames of thinking if you want to break free of the traits that support the character values that are not supportive of what you want in the long-term outcome. It is an incredibly complex process, but with the Maturity Project, I'm working on giving you the right insights to help you. You have to create the outcome. You have to create the work to get yourself there. The Maturity Project's about giving you the insights necessary with some of the tools to help you do the work. Because here's something that is an absolute truth. If somebody else does the work for you, you will not value it the same as if you do the work for yourself. There is a very deep lesson in that. But most people are like, yeah, that makes sense, Chad. Duh, you stupid bastard. Or whatever the hell they want to say, right? Look, man. The incredibly interesting thing about us as human beings is it's all available right now. Everything that we want to accomplish in this life is absolutely available. It's the floodgates are not opening at some point in time. They're already open. Opportunities are not waiting to come by. You just don't have the ability to see them. Things are happening right now that will change your future, but you do not have the abilities to get them. Even if you can see them, you don't have the abilities to get them unless you're right now telling me, Chad, I've got a hold of one of them and I'm working on it. So therefore you can go do your thing, right? So you have all of this stuff that's happening immediately all the time. It's right now, and then it's right now, and then it's right now, and then it's 5 minutes from now right now, and then it's 10 minutes, and then it's an hour, and it's whatever. It's constantly happening. You just don't have the ability to either see it, or you don't have the ability to capture it, or you don't have the ability to maintain it, you don't have the ability to accomplish it. You don't have the ability to be it. If you want to get to that ability, you have to work on the frames of thinking. Have you ever noticed that you get really excited and motivated about something? You're so ready to work your way into just, it works, man. You're going to make it work. You're going to bust your ass. You're going to get this thing there. You get so fired up. Maybe you had a good, a couple of cups of coffee, energy drink, something like that. Watched a motivational video, whatever. You got yourself like really up there, right? And then you're just logically thinking your way through it. You're excited and you say, I can pull this off. I can get there. I can make this work. And then something happens. Somebody cuts you off in traffic. You go to the grocery store and you realize the prices of groceries have gone up. You step in dog crap. You forget to turn your car off when you get out. You realize you didn't wear the right shoes. You get home and you forgot you left your pool on. Whatever. Something gets your attention. You get a phone call from a friend and they're going through something really pretty heavy. Or you just get a phone call from a friend and they're ridiculous and they make you laugh and whatever, and you're just off somewhere else. You've been disrupted. Getting back to the frame of thinking necessary to build into the future that you want to accomplish is not as easy because you've actually now found yourself losing the grip of that moment, which is the frames of thinking. You are going to find that it's far better if you journal your frames of thinking for the goals and the things that you want to change. Here's the thing about it too, and it's something that I talk about when it comes to dealing with challenges in life or conflicts in life, is there's 3 different models. I've talked about this often and I'll continue to talk about it often, which is avoidance is one model, the second model is survival, and the third model is thriving. Avoidance, I don't want to deal with it. Second model, which is survival, which is, let's figure out how to make sure this bill gets paid. And then when it's over, you just kind of move on, you continue on with whatever you want to do. The thriving model is, we got to get this bill paid no matter what, if it's a bill thing, right? It's easy to hold on to that one. I got to get this thing paid. When you get it paid, then you think about, okay, well, I'm aware that because of this event, which is the bill needed to be paid and it came due and I didn't have enough money right away and I had to focus on it to figure out where I was going to get the money from. I can focus on that thing right now. But what decisions did I make? How did I think my way into this situation? Or how did I dismiss or neglect something about this situation that made this occur? And how can I change that, what led me into this, which is the decision making or how I be, and now I can do something with it. So you put focus into that, and you start looking at the traits and the character values that got you to that. Now you have something you can do with it. Because you're not avoiding it in the future, and you're not trying to just survive it in the future. You're trying to grow into the next lesson. You're elevating yourself. You're evolving into your higher self. Earlier I mentioned high value man or woman. Well, a high value person is somebody that is incredibly irresistible in a lot of ways. They're attractive in a lot of ways. They're not just physically attractive. They're not just charismatic or, seductive or whatever. They're just the people that just seem to really make everybody feel amazing when they're around. Even if they're not directly influenced by the person within direct communication or connection, but yet they all notice this person. They walk in the room and eventually everybody knows they're there. Versus, yeah, I saw your face. A high value person stands out because they attract attention. They're not doing it to attract attention, because that's more of a narcissistic approach, and that's not what you find with a high value person. High value person is up to something. They're working on their life. They're working on who they are overall as a person. They're working on every aspect of being an amazing human being because they're up to something. Most of them are not doing it so that other people appreciate them for being a high value person. Most of them are doing it because they're up to something they want to accomplish in life, and they realize it's not a one track get you there approach. It is a multifaceted approach to get you to what you want to accomplish. So they are working on multiple things. That's why they're so appealing to so many people. Focus on one thing. One thing is valued by the people that see that as the highest priority value system. But the other people that don't see it as a high priority do not give it the same value as the person that does. So simple way of looking at that is just think about the last time that you were bringing something up that you're incredibly passionate about, and then somebody is like, wow, you really are passionate about this. Wow, this is amazing. And you directly connect and you feel that person really gets you. And then you bring that same conversation or a similar conversation, but under the same topic, to somebody else that you think will care. And as soon as you start talking about it, they're really disinterested or less interested. Oh, cool. All right, yeah, that's fantastic. But they don't follow up with questions to really expose more information as much as they just talk about other things. And then it makes you go, oh, well, that's not a very rewarding experience in this conversation. What the hell do I do with that? Huh. Well, maybe if I push harder into the conversation, they'll get enrolled. And it just doesn't seem to work. The other person seemed easy to get into it. This one doesn't. That's because it's a reduced value in what you're up to. It's very isolated. It's like we're working on a specialty or something, one specific thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just so you understand more about why people sometimes seem disinterested in that particular area. So if you want something great or something greater, well, let's start looking at all of you. High value people work on multiple areas of their life. They're not focusing on one thing. They're not the person obsessed with money, because the person obsessed with money, and that's their sole obsession, which is very uncommon. Usually it's in a compound value with something else. Maybe it's money so they don't have to struggle ever again, and then their family can be taken care of financially. Or it could just be that they want a Ferrari. Well, here's the thing. The people that have that as their major goal, as a single direction, is more likely, not a guarantee, but more likely to have less of a moral value of what it takes in order to accomplish accumulating that money. So they may do things that seem to, screw other people over. That damages your reputation, because over time, what happens? People don't want to be around that person. They want to protect themselves. And it reduces their community aspects and opportunities, because people are becoming wise to the fact that they're just kind of shitty people, or they're people that will resource extract more than they will contribute, which is pretty much typically what more of a less of a negative way of looking at it when it comes to, you know, shitty people. Just those that just extract more than they contribute. Typical. So if you want to improve upon your opportunity to be successful, you know, they become more interesting to more people because they are going to want to support you. And the best way to become more interesting to more people is to work on being a high value person. In order to be a high value person, you have to be up to multiple things. If you're looking at all 8 areas of maturity, well, there's a pretty damn good chance you're going to be up to some great things because you're really developing yourself overall. You know, you can be present more often so you can enjoy the trip to Hawaii. If, again, back to that example, whatever it is that you really want to experience, it gives you more of an interesting and wonderful experience overall because you have worked on yourself in such a way that people can truly see a very authentic value in you. Now, here's something else that I shared recently with somebody, and that's flattery. You know, I was talking with somebody about flattery, and I was told, she had told me, she's like, well, I'm flattered, or that's very flattering. And I'm like, well, I hope not. All I was doing is giving her a basic or a simple acknowledgement about something specific that she had put out into her social media world, and I was just acknowledging her for it. And she responded with, that's flattery, or, you know, that's very flattering. And I'm like, well, if you look up the definition for flattery, that's not what I just did, and I have no interest in flattering you. It's very sincere and authentic. If you're not familiar right now, put a pause in the video and then do a quick little Google search on the definition of flattery and then come back to the video. And here's one. You're welcome. If you're not, do it. I'm not going to tell you exactly what flattery is by definition. You need to look this up. I promise you. Plus, it's a nice little exercise for you. You should, in my opinion, it's going to benefit you by actually doing this because this is a communication, and communication is the words that we choose and how we expect for other people to receive them, so that they can understand the reality that we're operating in, so that we can get them to express their reality with us, and we can start looking at the bigger picture when it comes to multiple people involved in a single conversation. You want accuracy when it comes to those kind of conversations. Unfortunately, the majority of us don't have accuracy in those conversations. Most of us are talking at each other, not with each other. Now, high-value people talk with other people. They very, very rarely talk at people because they're up to something and they understand the tenets of success, which are connecting with other people. That's one of the that's a very interesting, and yet it's a required part of a lot of people's success models, or what their goals are, is you do need to get other people involved. You need to get other people interested in what you're doing. Most of us are missing the foundation, the fundamentals of what's necessary in order to do that, because our frames of thinking keep taking us out of what we're up to, and we can't even enroll people because we can't hold our frames of thinking long enough to maintain a conversation to encourage people to see what we want to accomplish so that they can contribute, even if that contribution is curiosity only, which is perfectly fine because curiosity tells you that it is of interest to them. And that means that it is of value to them. And if it's of value to them, you are the arbiter of that opportunity because it's up to you to create more of it. You know, which is also validating and vetting what you're up to. So the more people that show you they're curious and interested in what you're up to, is the more likely that they are going to want to encourage you to continue what you're doing, but also encourages you yourself to continue what you're doing so that you can find more success. It's a fantastic thing. What we forget to do is we get so incredibly attached to the complex and complicated ideas of success, and we forget to do the basic fundamentals and the foundational values of what's necessary to be successful. I realized this when I was in the fitness industry as a personal trainer and working with people on fitness changes and things like that as a holistic trainer. I realized that the majority of people want to find out what the most effective workout of the time right now is that would give them their results. But yet they would not pay attention, or were less interested in the foundational functions and the basics: water, sleep, stress mitigation or management, goal orientation and being able to envision the goals. But the basic foundations that's actually a little bit more complicated than complex, but yet at the same time, it's still on the functional side of the simple. It's just it's a little bit more complex on the simple side. But water is incredibly simplistic, but yet most people would not contribute what's necessary in order for the body to respond favorably to detoxify itself through proper hydration, so that the body was commonly dehydrated and did not want to reduce the body fat because of the toxin burden that the visceral system would have to take on, because they didn't have enough hydration in their body to get their body to detoxify the stuff out of their bloodstream. So the body kept it in body fat so that it did not damage the organs or the visceral system. And I would educate people on this, but they're like, it's got to be more than this. And I'm like, stop thinking about what's more complicated than complex, and let's get to mastering the simple. The simple is this. The simple is drink enough water. Work on your stress levels to try to reduce them, which means accepting challenges that you're dealing with and just be like, okay, it's a challenge. And don't be attached to the outcome whenever you're not prepared for the outcome right now. You're in the process to get to the outcome. Be more okay with the fact you're in the process, so you don't defeat yourself by trying to rush it along, because your thoughts are constantly focusing on the end result versus right now in the journey, which is, again, frames of thinking. So with this, if you were to think about your success models and what you want to accomplish in life, well, frames of thinking are necessary in order to build into it. It's like little Lego blocks. The more you can hold your conscious awareness to a specific frame of thinking that's necessary to be successful, which is, it usually spikes itself because you feel a little bit of encouragement, you feel a little motivation, you feel a slight release of endorphins, you feel a little elated, something along the line excites you about it. Well, that's a frame of thinking that's going to be helpful and supportive of you becoming successful. Well, now you have to hold on to that. Best way to hold on to that, because you got to start stacking them together. Well, you can talk about it. You can find places to actually inspire yourself and program yourself. I am a big advocate of finding the pieces that continuously hold you in that mindset. So for me, if I'm feeling lack of motivation, I will find specific motivational videos that I will listen to over listening to music, over listening to, my standard, even if it's politics or whatever it is. I will typically go to what is the proper prescription for my ailment. And my ailment, if I'm lacking motivation, I find motivational videos. I'll find the thing that I associate with being motivating. It could be seeing the outcome that somebody else has produced in what I'm up to, and seeing how they are about that outcome. And then if it motivates me, therefore now I have another block of motivation, and I can observe that, be exposed to it, and I can do something with it. So if you want to make the big changes in your life, first we need to get to the simple. Let's get to the simple very quickly and very easily by focusing on the basic frames of thinking. So as far as frames of thinking goes, that's what they are. Why care about them is because if you don't hold on to it long enough, you can't build a reality in your own mind, and you're waiting for somebody else to give it to you. And don't wait for somebody else to give it to you, because it's not likely going to happen. If you're waiting for your partner in your relationship to give it to you and you're not being what you actually want that partner to give you, you probably are not even able to communicate it in a way that actually does much for you. You just can't get your partner to understand you. And what do you expect then? Now you're expecting them to understand a box of mystery based off of your behaviors. So they're like, oh, well, my partner should know how to make sure that I'm pleased and or satisfied with things, or cared for, or loved, or whatever it is. If you haven't even been able to demonstrate what that is or communicate it in any way other than I told you, but you told them in a way that wasn't necessarily communicating, it was talking at them, not with them. Communication is so incredibly important. And it's not just in what's spoken, it's also in what's demonstrated, because body language and actions are communication as well. So, now, how to use this is you actually build it into something that does work, and it will work for you. But you have to start seeing the proof in the pudding. Now, don't try to... The better measurement that I find is just understand what a small or a micro measurement of success looks like. So if a micro measurement of success in the fitness world is you see that you've lost 2 pounds, well, the scale can tell you that, but the better way to measure it is not the scale. It's actually the way your clothes feel. If your clothes feel like they're a little less tight, or they are a little better fitting for you, you'll just notice it better than you would if it's a scale, because the scale doesn't know if it's digestive, it doesn't know if you're retaining water, if you had a long party weekend. The scale doesn't know shit other than just what mass was put on it against gravity. Pretty much it. The reality is what your clothes are telling you. Did you take the keys out of your pocket? You have a pocket full of quarters. Somebody stepping on the back of the scale when you're not looking. All those things, you can qualify it, but you got to look around first. First thing is, though, you look down at that number and you go, oh, that doesn't seem right. But if it's the way your clothes feel, that can tell you something more. When it comes to building muscle and losing body fat, well, muscle by per square inch or per measurement of volume, which could be an inch, centimeter, whatever, muscle weighs more than fat. But you have to use a measurement of volume, right? You have to use something to qualify it. It's not a pound of muscle is more than a pound of fat, because that's not true. It's the size that it occupies. Now, if it's within a specific range of that size, yeah, now you can actually qualify it. You can say within 3 inches and this much in diameter or whatever, you have a qualifiable value. And you can say, yes, there's density of muscle that's greater than the density of fat in that particular area. So when somebody says muscle weighs more than fat, that's an incomplete statement. It does require some other qualifier. Same thing with everything else with us. What we do is we like to say, okay, well, I get it now, but you getting it now does not mean you have complete information in order to understand it. It's just that you have enough information for you to feel confident you understand it. But there could be a lot more variables associated with that particular thing you're trying to understand that you just don't have to qualify it. So you say, yeah, I totally get that. I know what it means to buy a car. Okay, cool. Have you ever been there to buy a car before? Have you sat through the process, or have you gone through the process of actually looking for the kind of vehicles that you like and then setting up opportunities for test drives? Have you ever dealt with a salesperson? Have you ever dealt with a sales manager? Have you ever dealt with somebody who's trying to pressure you into getting something that kind of fits what you're looking for, but it's not 100%? Have you ever dealt with the possibility that you may not qualify for the credit level that they're looking for? Have you ever dealt with, signing at the dotted line? The finance manager offering all the extra stuff that can go on it, Have you ever dealt with all that stuff, or is it just saying, okay, I've dealt with buying a car before? Do you have somebody else come in and do the work for you, but you're there to witness it, but you're kind of like, mostly paying attention, but not fully, because your decision making wasn't part of it. You were relying on somebody else to make the decision. There's a lot when it comes to everything that we do. I use something that's kind of has its complex values, but it seems simplistic from the onset, which is, buy a car. Cool. What does it take to buy a car? Same thing. What does it take to buy a house? What does it take to buy groceries? I'm going to go to the grocery store. What do you do when you're in the grocery store? Step by step, what do you do? Are you checking prices everywhere else because you need to concern yourself with the amount of money that you spend, so therefore you've got to look for the better values when it comes to buying groceries? Or are you at a particular financial bracket that doesn't matter? And you're just comfortable with not paying attention to prices. Everybody has their own distinct, different reality that we can benefit from understanding. Frames of thinking all have value in this. If you want to make any kind of behavior traits and changes, any trait changes that'll change and support change in your character, you do need to understand what frames of thinking are necessary in order to accomplish that. So understanding the outcome is a big part of it, because if you continue to do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. Simple. Nothing changes unless something changes. Don't wish for something to change and do nothing. You got way too much going on in life, man. I'm 44 years old. I've had all kinds, an enormous amount of seconds that have helped make me who I am, and decisions that I've made along the way. And I've made some really bad decisions. But here's the great thing. Everything that I've done because I'm responsible always has to do with the outcome that I own. So own it. Own everything that you've gone through. If you can own it, you'll actually take greater responsibility for the way that you think, because you'll know that you can actually change so many things. If you're like, well, I'm always broke. Okay, you don't always have to be broke. I'm always dating the wrong person. Okay, you don't always have to date the wrong person. Same thing, by the way. If you're always dating the wrong person, it's because you are the wrong person. I know that sucks. Then you might want to replay that, or I'll say it again, because it's so juicy. Yeah. If you're always dating the wrong person, it's because you are the wrong person. Say it again. If you're always dating the wrong person, it's because you are the wrong person. How do you expect to bring somebody into your life that you don't know how to demonstrate who can care for them in the first place? It's the same concept. One of the worst things for a professional, especially when it comes to anybody that's ever made money, Professional athletes suffer from this often, especially when they don't diversify their income. They just get involved from whatever financial bracket they come from, but a lot of them, you can say, there's a pretty good degree of the ones that speak out openly about this stuff that come from real poverty. They come from low income, single mothers or things like that often. And then they become famous or they become a professional athlete and they get this massive payday that they're just not used to. And that, hell, their family's not used to. They don't diversify themselves. What is a huge Greek tragedy for a lot of these guys is, or, occasionally women, but predominantly it seems to be more men in this scenario, but that's just because of, professional sports and the amount of income and all of that. There's a big story and a conversation behind that, and it's not, the pay gap bullshit. But it's just more of, really get into the nuts and bolts of everything. But not to digress any further, to make a significant amount of money for a period of time and then realize that once you passed your prime, you're very unlikely to get drafted again or get signed to a team. And all that money that you've had that you've actually just started spending frivolously is no longer available to you. It is a horrible Greek tragedy to get to the point that you have had the experience of a lot of money, but yet you don't have it anymore and you don't have a way of accumulating it. You're stuck. You were hoping that somebody else cares that you actually played for a professional team and maybe they'll give you some sort of special privilege, maybe a job that's above average, entry level or something along those lines. A lot of these people, unfortunately, they do get broken parts within the time that they're on assigned for a team. If they're professional, they likely have 4 years, something like that on average. And after the contract's over, it's whatever the contract terms are, but there's a it's not uncommon to actually have people blow out their knee or damage a joint in a way they can't perform like they did when they first got started, and they're no longer as valuable to teams, and they don't have the development being a high value team player and or superstar, if you will, or a sports star or an athlete. They don't have any other variables that help make them valuable enough to the team to keep around. Because if it's not just performance on the floor or out on the field, it could also be what they do with their marketing and how they draw attention. But ultimately, if you end up with, I used to play for a professional team, you have the equivalent of the people that peaked in high school. That's pretty much the end of your career. And then everything you do from that point moving forward is you're used to the taste of money. You're used to the experience of having it. You've got the highlight of it. It's like a drug. And now it becomes the thing that you're obsessed with. It's very common for that. Not to say everybody is, but that's very common. It is a tragedy in itself because people get exploited for their immaturities all the time. That's what I hear when people say ignorance is bliss, is actually it's the exploitation of immaturity. It's a lack of experience. Ignorance is lack of knowledge. If you've experienced something and you have the knowledge about it and you still choose to do the thing that is against your interests, well, you can argue and say that's stupidity, or it's a masochistic way of approaching things. You just prefer to be punished instead of actually, doing the right thing to yield the result that you're really wanting. And a lot of those people are also, they have an attachment for the method that's like in the function of what they're doing. Right, like my method to, get this thing accomplished, even though I know the right way to do it, it's just that I would prefer to be a clown when I do it, or joking, or just get people to like me in the process, or, find me appealing or sexy or whatever it is. And it actually takes them off of the track specific that would be the most successful. And it gives them that secondary reward, but that secondary reward may rob them of the primary goal because of the way that they're being in the process. You can easily do that. That's that self-sabotaging thing that most of the time we're just like, I sabotage myself all the time. Well, you don't know why you're doing it. If you knew why you were doing it, you'd be better off because you'd be able to do or say something different and do something different. But a lot of times it's just this ignorance is bliss autopilot nonsense. It's just immaturity that's just not being developed. And the longer you keep something immature, the longer you're going to deal with that thing because you're not doing anything other than waiting for luck to get you out of that circumstance. But when you can reframe things in the way you think in such a way that it helps build you into changing a trait that is supporting a particular character trait value, then you can do something with that and make an outcome that actually does succeed over past attempts. So, all right. So what are the challenges you face is people would like to push you back into the way they know you to be. If they know you to be funny and you're trying to be serious, they're going to try to push you back into being funny, even though right now the moment requires that you be serious. If it is that people are used to you being, I don't know, going out and partying all the time, and you're like, I'm not going to do it now. I'm going to focus on something else. I'll go out occasionally. I don't really feel like it right now. You haven't felt like it in a week. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just up to something. Oh, well, you know what? Just come out, have a drink, and then you can do whatever, It's like it's coaching you into being the way that you were. I'm not saying don't go out and do that. Just understand that if you're really working on making changes, some of the challenges are your support system in itself. Most people don't understand what you're up to. And if you can't articulate it because you don't hold the frames of thinking long enough to even speak about it in a way that's coherent, you're going to have some challenges. So the fundamental foundations of what it takes to make changes is the frames of thinking. So now that you know that from watching this video, what the hell will you do with this? You're going to run into challenges. Communication is incredibly necessary in order to make change. Because if people don't understand what you're up to, you don't have a community to support you. Even if that community is one other person, you don't have it to support you because they don't know what you're up to. No matter how close they are as a friend to you, they don't know what's necessary to support you. It's not there yet. You've got to teach them. You have to educate. You have to get them to get to that point of like really, truly understanding. So you're going to have a lot of challenges. You're also going to have the unfamiliar terrain. Benefits of being able to enroll people in what you're up to is that they may have the skill sets necessary to help you understand the terrain you're getting into that you're unfamiliar with, but they have life lessons necessary to see something. Or just talking about the challenge that you're dealing with could give you a different perspective. Even if they don't tell you the different perspective, just simply talking to them about it opens it up for you to start looking at your vantage points and seeing different perspectives on outcomes instead of being stuck to a fixed way. A lot of benefits from being able to actually communicate with your community. But you have to be able to hold your frames of thinking long enough to be coherent enough to speak about it. And then be open to, pushback, ridicule, skepticism, challenges towards it. All of those things happen too. Because if they're not fully enrolled, don't think that they don't want to see you successful because they're not speaking into that as your success model. You got to be careful of the ones that don't even seem to try to challenge it. They're just like, yeah, I've got your back. But then you're like, yeah, well, having my back could be that you need to loan me $5,000. Well, you never talked about that, and you're like, well, they got my back, so we're good. They're going to give me $5,000. Awesome. You don't know because you guys didn't qualify it. And then when it's time that's due, and you're like, all right, well, I'm going to push, it's in the cart. I'm gonna go ahead and execute this and buy the program that I'm actually getting into, or sign up for this particular education, or I'm gonna buy this thing that I need for my business. Where's that $5,000? You never discussed it with the person. They said they got your back. They never declared they have your back for $5,000 because you didn't make the distinction. You didn't have the conversation necessary because you didn't hold the frames of thinking long enough for it to be coherent enough for you to walk your way through that conversation so that you can get to the point and be like, yeah, I'm probably going to need a loan, but I'm going to extinguish all options until it gets there. But if I do need a loan, will you be open to loaning me $5,000 so that I can achieve getting this thing, which this thing will do that? And you can enroll them because you talk to them about the functions of what that money's actually going to do. And you could also give them a conversation about payback. What can they expect? When can they expect it? So that you can ease their concerns about return on their investment. Even if that investment is just supporting their friend, it is an investment nonetheless. So you need to be able to have those conversations if you really want to get there. It's not a lot of people have somebody in their life that has a ridiculous amount of disposable income. By the way, I wouldn't suggest burning that bridge anyway or damaging that relationship by getting money that you're not ready to have. You have to be able to walk your way through this and holding the frames of thought necessary to challenge or to change the thinking processes that are traits that support your character. Then you're probably going to damage things greater than you will support your successful model. So, all right. With that, in conclusion, if you really want to change your reality, it's going to be helpful to understand what kind of change you want. And just know that you're going to get excited about it along the way. But if you can't maintain that excitation or that excitement by the frames of thoughts that you have, then you're going to find yourself oscillating in and out of motivation to do anything. And before you know it, you'll be years later and you're not really making a whole lot of progress. But you'll look back and go, damn it, I've really wanted to do this. Maybe it's not for me. You can accomplish anything. I don't care who you are. You can accomplish something. You can accomplish great things. But you have to first think that it's possible. Les Brown said this whenever, I met him. Not direct, but he was in the room. Whatever. I love this guy. Les Brown's fantastic. I did meet him before. And one of the things that he said is the hardest thing that he's ever had in his life is to convince himself that he can make $1 million. The easiest thing he's ever done is made $1 million. The hardest thing was convincing himself he could. That is so incredibly deep, but it's said so simplistically. Because if you really think about what's holding you back, it's you. It is you. It is absolutely you. My own personal experiences and personal relationships, the only thing holding me back from the love of my life was me. It's fucking wild, man. Truly. So if you want to change your reality, you got to work on those frames of thinking. You'll change it. Yeah, you will. But you got to know what's the simple details, what's the simple actions that are necessary in order to get there. And you absolutely can accomplish this. Don't think for a second you can't. You're going to think for a second. You're going to think for a long time that you can't. You've thought most of your life you can't do something, I'm sure. If you want to break that pattern, this is how you do it. This is definitely the method that we use with the Maturity Project. 8 areas of maturity. You can develop in every one of those, and it will give you a more fulfilling life. Absolutely will. Don't think, and I'll leave this as the closing, do not think for a second that by maturing yourself, you lose the fun of playfulness. You continue to maintain the childlike experience of life that's playful and fun, but you shed out the insecurities that restrict you, that embarrass you, that cause you not to want to be fully fulfilled and self-expressive. You can stay childish, you can have a great time, you just shed out the insecurities. So by maturing, that's what you get. If you do it the right way. If you do it the wrong way, you're not really necessarily, sure you're maturing, but you're doing it in a way that's so rigid and sucks. It sucks the life out of you. That's not the way we do it with the Maturity Project. I want you to inject the life back into you. I want you to have the most fulfilling experience you can possibly have. But I can't do it for you. I will not do it for you. I don't even have a model to give you to do it for you directly. But I have the Maturity Project's 8 different areas, and we can mature in every one of those. And I can give you the insights necessary to mature through them. But you got to do the work. So, change your life. You got to work on the way you think. You're the only person that stops you. All right, that's it for today. This is the Maturity Project. I am your host, Chad Everett Bro Shears. Now, if you want to really work on the community and to be able to make these changes, share this video with somebody in your life that you want to break the ice with and have a meaningful conversation, a conversation of change. Your community is required in order to make the changes that you want to make in life and make the impacts necessary in life that you want to make. Even if that community is just to receive the change that you are, they still need to be there. And a lot of them just need to be educated on what you're up to so that they can receive what you're up to the best. So share this video with those people. Talk about it, create dialogue. Put some comments in the comments section. That also helps with the community in this thing so that we can get people to actually understand what the differences are. And you guys can start conversations that actually give you the ability to engage with other people that are following this work, that are involved in this work. So comment in the comment section. Give a piece of what you've been up to so that people can be inspired by it. It's wonderful how when other people are inspired by what you're inspired by, it's almost self-fulfilling. It's self-perpetuating. It just keeps giving back to itself. I absolutely love that. So, yeah, with that, let's get to it, man. Like the video, it helps it with the algorithm, and it also gives me kind of an update on, hey, who likes this and who doesn't. So click that like button. When you do the subscriptions, by the way, help subscribe to the channel. If you're not already subscribed, do it. It will help out with this. And, yeah. It'll also help recruit more people into this whole thing. So this is a dedication that I have for my life. I want to make a big difference. I'd like for you to join in that. Make a difference in your own life and make a difference in someone else's. But don't do it for them. Just give them the inspiration, even if it has to be me that breaks the ice on that inspiration. Be a part of it. Okay? All right. Till next time, just keep in mind the path to hell is paved with good intentions. The whole purpose of this is to try to reduce that path to hell as often as possible and be disruptors. Let's stop this downward spiral that we seem to be on in society. Social media is hurting us because it makes us all drive apart, divide us. Tribalism. We don't need it. We don't have to have that. We have alternatives. We can come together. The Maturity Project is about bringing people together. We all can contribute to each other's success. So, all right, till next time. Let's get up to some stuff, shall we? All right, let's get up to it. Get up to it with me. See ya.